Hey there guys, welcome back to the Rogues Guild. It's been a while since we talked. Last, we've launched our Patreon channel. If you haven't had a chance to go check it out yet, please do. We put an article up there for free, just kind of like a preview of the articles that'll be releasing every 2 weeks for our Patreons. And the first article that you can go take a look at is Hypergeometric Distribution, done by Jonathan Ball. It's a really good read when it comes to laying out your decks and talking about counts that you need to be running. You might put a little bit of an explanation why you ran a 46 card Keurig in Charlotte, so if you get a chance, run over, go check that out. But so finance, last time we talked about Ancient Knights, the first set of the Rhea cluster, and I said we were going to jump into ADK for this one, so let's go ahead and dive in. Alright guys, so the breakdown on the distribution for Advent of the Demon King was a lot like Ancient Knights. One of the big differences that you're going to have here is your ruler. So the ruler, we had 1 per box guaranteed in Ancient Knights, but there were only 3 options, and they were all 3 brand new options, rulers that you had never seen before, right? So when you pulled one of those rulers, you felt very accomplished and it felt very good, right? Here, they had 5 rulers, 5 unique rulers that you could pull from, and they were all 1 per box. The issue that they had was 3 of those 5 rulers were reprints from the starter deck. So you had a fully awakened Tigris, and you had a fully awakened Gil, then you had a half awakened Rhea. And so, like, if you pulled any of those 3 rulers as that ruler slot, you felt pretty bad. But what this did do is your 2 brand new rulers, your Welser and your IU, it really upped the prices on those. So what everybody was thinking was they adjusted the ruler distributions. They really didn't. It was just the 2 that you wanted to hit. They were just buried behind a bunch of starters that you didn't want to hit, right? So IU is currently sitting at $70 a pop, right? So when you're looking at the box prices and you're like, hell yeah, $84 for ADK. If I pull an IU, that covers it. Well, you only got a 20% chance of doing that, so good luck. The chase card is the other area that they screwed up in this box. So your chase card, 1 per box, was the original starter deck art for Gil or Tigris fully unsealed. And that was it. So after this, like, everybody was flooded on Gils and Tigris because those were the only 2 chase cards, and that's not a chase card. So I'm very glad that they learned going forward, don't do that again. But for this one, yeah, that's what you were stuck with. And then the distribution on the floors were the same going forward from there. So the only thing I want to talk about here is you've got 2 super rares that are carrying value in this set, and that is Joan d'Arc. Obvious reason, she is a very powerful black card, finds her way into a lot of aggro decks and even sprinkles herself into the sideboards of the control decks that need to handle J-Ruler decks. And then the other one is Freyla. Freyla herself as a resonator form with the 6/6 body, swiftness if you don't have a resonator, but then gives other stuff a +4/+4 bump and swiftness whenever she attacks. All you gotta do is sacrifice it. Those kind of costs, they were really good for aggroing out a lot of your other stuff. So she found her place in all Freyla decks and even sprinkled into some other aggro decks as well. I know the Keurigs that took mini at the end of last year were running Freyla. So those 2 cards are maintaining value. Joan is currently at 18. Freyla is currently at like $8 a pop. There's only 3 copies of Joan d'Arc base rare currently on the market. So I expect that to go into stock out here pretty soon. In the rare slot, the only one above $2 is Mosasaurus. If you guys remember when Time Spinning Witch was a thing, Mosasaurus was sitting around $10, but now he's settled back into 3.5 now that Time Spinning Witch is banned. Mosa's splashing his way into the Loki, the Mosa Misty Mystery Box machine decks, decks. So that's really kind of the only value he has right now, but we'll see if that even sticks. All the rest of your rares in the set are like your good rares are hovering between $1 and $2. So we're talking about Seal, Optional Possession, Elixir's Fighting Spirit, Faith in the Darkness. Those are all between $1 and $2. Optional Possession and Elixir's Fighting Spirit, though, I do expect those to start seeing more play over the next months. I think Remnant spells are very, very powerful, and we don't play enough Grave Hate, especially with Hanzo taking a hit, and in the current rotation of the meta, Hanzo's kind of getting the short end because everyone's playing around Jizo, so I would expect to see less Viola. So those little remnant spells are actually going to do very well. Now jumping into the uncommon slots, what you're going to find is Spider's Web. It's currently hovering about $1.75, so base rare, Spider's Web, if you're sitting on those, make sure you get them on because it's a very powerful card. And then Majin Dark Elf. So Majin Dark Elf has settled from its $5 spike that was, what, 3 months ago. It was a stock out, everybody wanted it, nobody had it. Went up to $5, sold high for a while, and then now the market is restabilized. There's plenty of supply on Majin Dark Elf, so it's back down to about $1.20. So yeah, nothing else too crazy. Oh, just kidding. When I was checking stuff out today, I have no idea what in the world happened, but Leaf Garb, our girl Leaf Garb, is currently sitting at $2.50 a pop for base rare Leaf Garbs. She's a common, and I can't tell you why. I can't tell you why. There is no spicy meta deck right now that is running Leaf Garbs, so my guess is this buyout might have happened someplace north in the Michigan area. There's a little play group up there that I know that really loves this card, and got a feeling they might be behind this. But $2.50 for a common Leaf Garb. I'm gonna have to be running through my collection, and I might list some to see if they sell. But could just be a fan service there. She's an absolutely beautiful card. But yeah, that is everything from Advent of the Demon King. Alright guys, so Advent of the Demon King, there is definitely some value. If you end up hitting those cards, they will pay for the box themselves. The issue is that you got to remember that in those boxes there are a chance that you won't see a single Joan d'Arc, just because of you're only getting 7 of 8. You know, there's a 30% chance that you're not going to see the super rare that you're wanting, you know, and then especially with only 2 full arts, there's no guarantees, not compared to the sets that we currently have. So make sure when you're weighing the risks of buying these sets to flip for singles that you understand the distribution going forward. So then something I wanted to talk about, I reached out to some sellers that I think it was 2 weeks ago, because I had experienced a peak in claims. So claims for us is when I send an order and they say, nah, I never got an order. Then I have to give them their money back, right? I'm out the cards, they're out the money, and then but TCG player gives them the money, right? So I had 4 claims show up over the course of a 2-week period right after Vegas. So it was the last 2 weeks of February. I had 4 claims. Now, to kind of explain, like, there's some people that experience 4 claims a day and they have a lot more volume than I do. I have only had 1 claim in all of my time in selling in the last 1.5 years. I had 1 claim. And so when I reached out to the sellers, I was like, hey, did you guys experience an anomaly in the last whatever? And, you know, they all were kind of like, yeah, something happened over that 2-course period of time, and USPS had their head up their ass about something. I have no idea what happened internally. I do not know one bit of info, but I do now have a platform. So if you guys know anything, if you guys have your ears to the concrete, and if you guys have any information about what potentially happened in the USPS during the last 2 weeks of February, because there was a lot of shipping issues. I ended up having 1 order that was tracked, said that it was delivered, and then 2 weeks later the buyer was like, hey, this was never delivered, filed a claim with UPS. They ended up finding it somewhere, and now they're sending it back to me. Hopefully I receive it, because I'll be out like a $31 card. But like these are just kind of the weird things that don't normally happen, and they all happen in a chunk of time. So if you are a buyer and you experience some of these things, the seller's not trying to screw you. Something weird happened, and I can't explain it yet. So hopefully maybe you guys have some information. But yeah, it was a super weird anomaly. So I wanted to talk to you guys about how I go about handling these kinds of things from my 1 experience I had before these 4, right? So like I went into it with the mindset that if at any time I ever felt like I was coming across a scammer, then what I would do is I would protect myself from future scams from that person. So if at any time I send an order and they respond with, hey, I didn't receive this order, then what I do is I go check and I'm like, okay, is this a returning customer? Do I have a history with this person that says that they have bought from me before, received stuff successfully, and I've gotten paid, that would just kind of know and make me think that, okay, this is a USPS problem. If that is the case, then I'll just move on with my life. I'll probably put a little note somewhere that's like, hey, this happened, and if it happens again, I'll think about it. If not, if this is a brand new seller and it turns out that they did not receive their stuff, honestly, I'd block the buyer. You on TCG Player have the ability to block buyers from seeing your inventory. It might be a little harsh, but at the end of the day, there are plenty of sellers out there, and we're all talking about like pennies difference from us, like when we're talking about the grand scheme of things. I mean, except for if there's a price reset and I'm the only seller, you know, sorry, but like the one example that I have is I sent 2 dual stones back when they were legal. I sent them to Puerto Rico. 3 days later, I got a response from the buyer saying that they had never received it. So this was automatically a red flag, because usually I'm allowed, when I ship untracked, I'm allowed 6 to 8 days for the package to arrive. My stuff normally arrives in 3 days, right? So like him reaching out to me on the 3rd day when I still had 5 days legally through TCG Player for the package to arrive and say, hey, I didn't have it, you know, I was already a little suspicious. So I told him, I was like, hey, you know, well, I'm allowed this many days, so get back with me in 6 days if you haven't received it, and I'll give you a refund. Like clockwork, it was almost like midnight. He was like, yep, didn't receive it, 6 days. Gave him his refund, blocked the buyer. Now it's just like, yeah, no, you got this $12 off of me, and then you're not going to get anything off me again. So then when these last 4 wins, they were actually all return sellers or return buyers. And then when I talked to the other sellers, they were saying the same thing, because they were checking for scammers, and they're like, no, these are all return buyers that I've never had a problem with before, and they're also happening in this time frame. So I just want to make you guys aware of that, and then also, if you are selling, you know, how I handle these kinds of things. If there's a claim, block the buyer. There's no shame in doing it. You're not going to short yourself a crap ton of money, you know, just block the buyer. If you lost your package in those 2 weeks, if you didn't get your cards, I'm sorry to hear that, man, and hopefully maybe somebody in the comments below has some information for us. But yeah, until next time, we're going to go over Time Spinning Witch, but I appreciate you guys stopping by, and we'll see you around.